Hi everyone, welcome back to the Book Vandal Shop. In this video, I'm going to be making a cover for a soft cover journal. This is my new digital kit, so if you haven't seen that, go back and watch the other video where I show you through it. So I'm going to be making a couple of journals using this kit since I've never used it before. I just created it and I just printed it, and so this will be the first time I've got to play with any of it. So I want to make a couple of soft cover journals. Let me set this out of the way. This is some fabric that I bought last year at Joann Fabrics. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was Joann Fabrics. It's got a lot of the same colors that are in the journal kit, so I thought it would be great for doing covers. So I already have one done, so that will be the outside, and then this color on the inside. So now I need to make another one. That's the one we'll do on camera using this teal colored fabric. So let's get started. To do this, I'm going to be using some fabric stabilizer. It seems like every time I make journals, I never do it the same way twice. Sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I do it another way, which I think the other way I do it, I think I have videos on that already. But I will go ahead and tell you, the other way I often make a soft cover journal is I'll have a layer of fabric and then a layer of cotton batting. And batting is what you would use like if you're making quilts. It's kind of that real thin, puffy cotton stuff that goes between your fabric layers, like if you're going to do cotton or quilting. So I'll do the fabric and then cotton batting, and then I'll do something that stiffens it up like a file folder or cardstock, and then cotton batting, and then another sheet of fabric, so that when you're looking at it, you've got your outside fabric, your inside fabric, you've got your cardstock or a file folder in the middle, and cotton batting between. So that's just one way I often do it. That's not the way I'm doing it today. Today I'm going to be using fabric stabilizer. So this stuff is what you would use if you're going to be making like tote bags, purses, things where you would want fabric to have some rigidity. You would want it to maybe stand up on its own and be firm. So it's a stabilizer made specifically for doing things like that. This particular stabilizer that I'm using is probably about 3 millimeters thick, I'm guessing. It's the Pellon brand, Peltex 72F double-sided fusible ultra firm stabilizer. So Pellon Peltex 72F double-sided fusible ultra firm stabilizer. So, and it comes like where you would buy fabric off of the bolt, off the roll. So you pick up a bolt of it and take it to the counter and have them cut you off some. You would buy it by the yard. So it comes in big long, or big pieces. So as long as you have them cut it. So this is already pre-cut. I've already cut this to my measurements that I'm going to need. I will try to remember to put this in the description box below if you're interested in doing it this way. So the reason I'm using the fusible, double-sided fusible, is it has an adhesive that works after it's been heated up with an iron, and it helps hold your fabric onto it while you get it through the sewing machine, so it's great for that. So I'm already cut to my size. I will go through the math with you real quick, especially for beginners. So my signatures, or for the inside of my journal, I'm using 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper folded in half. Sorry, I don't know why my camera keeps bouncing in and out like that. But I'm using 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper folded in half for my signature. Okay, so when my 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is folded in half, that gives me 5.5 inches wide by 8. Okay, so I'm 5.5 by 8. Okay, so I want my cover to be slightly wider and slightly taller. Okay, so I want my cover to come out about 6 inches. And I want to give myself approximately 1/2 inch on the top and the bottom. So that would make 9. So 6 by 9. So if I have 6 inches wide on my front cover, 6 inches wide on my back cover, and then I need to figure out how much I want for my spine. And for these journals, I'm doing 3 signature journals. So I think 1.5 inches should probably be plenty for a 3 signature journal. So I'm going to go with 1.5 inches spine. So 6 and 6 and 1.5 gives me 13.5 inches wide. And then my 8 inches tall with a little bit extra on the top and bottom gives me 9. So I've cut my stabilizer to be 13.5 by 9. If you're making a journal of different sizes or you're using a different paper size than me, you're going to need to adjust your measurements, but that is what mine is, 13.5 by 9. Okay, so I've cut my stabilizer already, and the first thing I want to do is I want to get my inside fabric, the fabric that's going to line the inside of my journal. Okay. I've already cut on this one, so I was trying to find where I'd already cut and go from there. It's just going to give me fits. All right. Oops, I don't want that on the top. I want that on the bottom. So I'm just going to lay my fabric. You could go ahead and cut your fabric first, by all means. I don't like having to be so precise. If I cut my fabric completely precise, then I have to be completely precise when I lay it down on my stabilizer, and be super careful about ironing and all that. So I'm just going to get it pretty darn close. Okay, close enough. And I'm going to go ahead and iron it. Now, there are directions for using this stuff. I'm not really following the directions per se, because I don't need this to be permanent. This is all going to be ran through my sewing machine. This is just on here to help me with the cutting process and running it through my sewing machine. And I should not be ironing on my cutting mat. That is a big no-no. That is a very big no-no. All right. Flip that over. And now that I have that flipped over, I can better see to trim this very precisely. And if you're worried about fraying or loose threads around your edges, you could cut this using pinking shears. Okay. Normally I would just use my rotary cutter and my cutting mat, but I've already moved my cutting mat out of the way, and it's kind of bulky to try to do that on camera, so I'm using my scissors, and it's just not looking the greatest. I suppose it doesn't have to be perfect, does it? Go ahead and finish trimming this up. one more side. The rotary cutter really is much easier for doing this. And I will probably go back and retrim this with my rotary cutter. Trim this up just a tad. Now, before I add the front on here, actually let me pause and say goodnight to my hubby. He's coming to tell me goodnight, so I'll be right back. Okie doke, I'm back. All right, so trimmed that up a little bit better around the edges. So before we flip this over and put the front cover on here, before I iron that on, I'd like to put a pocket on the inside. So this is my inside coordinating fabric. This could be my outside. So I want to put a pocket on here. And I think I'm also going to maybe put some decorative stitching in here too. So the pocket I want to do, I want to use my outer fabric to put a pocket on it in here. So I'm going to just cut a little bit of my fabric. Kind of wrinkly on that corner. I'll go over to this side. And I'm going to use my pinking shears so it doesn't fray out. I'm just going to cut down the side of the maker's label here. Okay. And let's see. I do want this to be sort of halfway straight, I guess. I'm just going to use piece of paper here as a template for a pocket. So here's my book. That's a little bigger than I want. Oops, I won't use my fabric scissors for paper. All right. Just eyeballing it. So keep in mind where my spine is going to be and where the front cover is. So my cover is 6 inches wide. And then my spine is 1.5 inches. So 1.5. 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, it looks small for a minute. Okay, so my front cover is 6 inches wide. So I want to center my pocket on 6 inches. That's about the size of my front. So I think that's about the size I want. So that'll be my template for cutting my fabric. I thought that looked a little tall. I didn't cut that 9 inches tall. I cut it 10 inches tall. All right, well, off camera, not right now, I will cut that down another inch so that looks 9 inches, not 10. I thought, why does that look so tall? Gee, it's just been one of those days. Yeah, look at that. I'm way too tall. That's okay. I'll trim that down to size. Again, I'm 13.5 by 9, not 13.5 by 10. Okay. Anyway, that's the size I want my pocket to be. So I've got my little template. Bring my fabric back over here. I could measure that out, but I think it's just as easy to cut it All right. There we go. About right there. And I'm actually going to cut my fabric twice as tall as I need. I'll show you why in just a second. If you're interested to know my measurements here on my pocket, I will tell you. My pocket is going to be 3 3/4 inches wide by 4 1/4 tall. 3 3/4 by 4 1/4, roughly. All right, I already drew that, okay? And then I'm going to be twice as tall on purpose. Okay, cut that out. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and now I'm going to fold that down. And so that I'm basically a double thickness on my pocket. So that when I put this on my journal, it's not just one layer of fabric, but 2 layers of fabric. Okay, and I'll have this nice rounded edge on the top of my pocket. So what I'm probably going to do is run this through my sewing machine along here, okay? Probably right along there, so that will stay. And then now it would be a good time if I wanted some ribbon on my pocket, anything decorative, I could run that through my sewing machine, okay? And then I need to, of course, after I cut my cover to size, figure out exactly where this is going to go. So remember, my front cover is 6 inches wide. So that puts me to there. And if I want my pocket centered on my front cover, on the inside of my front cover, I've got 6 inches to work with, and I think that is about where I'm going to want it to go. So I could pin it down, or I'm just going to make a little pencil mark. A little pencil mark, it won't show. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to trim my cover down to the size it's supposed to be. I'm going to put a little stitch across the top of this pocket, and then I'm going to stitch it to my journal. What else do I want to do? Oh, actually, before I put my pocket on there, if I want to do any decorative stitches, or if I want to do like a crisscross pattern of stitching on my cover to make it look quilted, now might be the time to do that before I put the pocket on, okay? So any kind of creative things you want to do, and then sew the pocket on, okay? And we need to do those things before we put the front on. Or maybe I'm just throwing some ideas out here. Maybe we like the quilted look, and maybe you want to do your lines to crisscross to make it look like it's quilted. If you like that, maybe we want to wait until we get the front cover on to do that. I don't know. Yeah, those are just some things to think about. But I don't think I want that look on my outside of my cover, because I've got something else in mind for that. So, all right, I am going to run this through my sewing machine, and then I'm going to come right back, okay? Okay, so I got myself trimmed down. to 9 inches like I was supposed to be, 13.5 by 9. And I've got my pockets sewn on, and I did a little bit of lace here on the top. So before I put the pocket on, I sewed a little bit of lace across the top of it, and then I laid it down where I had marked and sewed it on with a zigzag stitch. So I did this before I put the front on because I don't want my pocket stitching coming through the front side. All right, so now time to put my front fabric on. I'm gonna go down there where I've already cut. Yeah, there we go. And I'm just going to, real quick, so I can get this other, just, things are harder when you're on camera and you're trying to keep everything in focus and keep everything squared up while still watching to make sure you're in frame. I'm just going to, for now, cut away okay. I will have to trim around that better, but that way I can get the rest of that fabric out of my way for what I'm doing. Okay, flip it over so that I can iron on to this side. Now, one thing I want to think about doing before I do any sewing is, do I want ties, journal ties to keep it closed? Do I want those permanent? Do I want to use, so this is some sari silk that I have. I put it on just an old paper roll, that's why it's on there. Do I just want a piece of sari silk or lace or something like that, just tie around the journal to keep it closed? And then, you know, when I'm using the journal, I can just take it off and throw it aside. Or do I want it like built into the cover, like so? And so then it can tie over here on the side. And I like that, me personally, because then I'm not trying to keep track of where did I leave the string and the tie, and it's not going around the outside of my journal. So anyway, I need to, and I like this sari silk because it's pretty. So the inside is that orange color, the color of those dark flowers, and then this matches perfectly the lighter colored flowers. So the only bad part about this sari silk is it's a lot of shorter pieces sewn together. There aren't a lot of long pieces in it. But that's okay. That is okay. How long do I want? Tuck some in to sew. And then I need to think about when I tie it, I'm going to string and then another string. Yeah. I'm a visual person, so I often like to see things rather than measure things. Like, yeah, I like that length because I can sew it in there, and then there's still enough to make a loop and then a hangy down. Okay. I'm so precise. Okay, how long is that for you precise people that like to measure? Let's see, I am at 18 plus 15, so 33. My little string here is 33 inches long. Yours can be however long you want them to be. And let's cut another one for the other side. Actually, it's probably not going to be 33. It's going to be 33 minus that little bit. Uh-oh. Okay. find another piece that's about the same length. That one will work perfectly. Sometimes where they sew it in, it's not real strong. All the little pieces like this, I keep all of these, and I have a snippet box, and I just keep all the little pieces like that, and all my little pieces of fabric that are little snippets, and then you can make snippet rolls and little snippet embellishments and all that. So, all right, this is going to go in right about center. Tack that on. There we go. And now let's go ahead and baste this down. Isn't that a pretty fabric? I just love that print. It's got all the lovely fall colors, but it's not in your face like my journal kit is. I'm kidding. No, I love the journal kit. I really do. But it is an explosion of fall. But it's nice and bright, bright, bright. It's not super grungy. It's kind of distressed a little, but it's not grungy. So that's what I was kind of going for. I like grunge, but I sometimes I just like not doing things super grungy. So, all right, to spare you the boredom, I am going to trim now. Trim this up around the edges off of camera, so you don't have to see me struggling with that, because I'm going to get my rotary cutter and my cutting board out and my ruler and do it. Be careful not to cut your ties off the side, okay? All right, I'll be right back as soon as I do that. Okay, so we are all trimmed up, and I managed to not cut my ties off, so I would maybe recommend trim the fabric and then iron the ties in place. You know me, I do things backwards sometimes. All right, so there's that side. Okay, so it's all ironed down and trimmed up, and now I'm going to run it through my sewing machine around the edges, and I'm trying to decide if I want to put a coordinating fabric like this orange on the outside of my journal, kind of maybe like here and the spine, to give it a little pop of color. But I kind of think I don't. I think we're going to keep it simple for this one. Yeah. So let me see here. See if I've got a little piece of the fabric. I don't. Let's see if you see what I'm talking about here. Like if I had some fabric like this, I kind of ran down the side and then wrapped around the spine and then stopped right about here. You know what I'm saying? So a band of colored fabric through the middle. But I don't think I want to do that, because I have plans for the front. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to be gluing on the front, and I think it'll be fine without it. So I think what I am going to do is just go ahead and run my stitching around the outside edge. Yeah, I'm trying to decide if this is where your own creativity could take over. So, you know, you could frame it out at, you know, where your 6 inches, remember, from here to here. Okay. So let's just say, sorry, I bumped the camera. Let's just say that's your, I think this is 1.5 inches. Nope, it's 2 inches. Let's just say that's your front part. Okay, so you could run stitching around here, and then you'd have your spine, and then this is your back 6 inches, and you ran stitching around. You could do it that way. You could do it just all around, and I'm showing you the inside. I should be showing you the outside. Or you could just run it only around the edges. So, I don't know, just some things to think about. And then, you know, if you wanted to do a coordinating fabric, you could do that stripe of fabric down the middle. So you could go around all of the edges, and then you could put that stripe of fabric down the middle and sew it in place. I don't know. Those are just some things you can think about doing. I mean, the sky is the limit. So I'm going to do some stitching, and then I'm going to come back. Okay? All right, be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I did some stitching around the outside edge. So that holds that on there nicely. And then I did go ahead and put in some stitches in a kind of a crisscross pattern to give it some visual interest on the back. And I only did it from the pocket over. I didn't do it on this front, what's going to be the front cover, because I'm going to be gluing a bunch of stuff on here. It's not going to show anyway. And I just didn't. So anyway, one last thing I want to do to this cover in this video is we're going to iron where our spine is going to give our cover a little bit of shape. So we don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Especially if you're going to maybe just do a single signature, a simple fold is fine, or you can just sew your signatures into the cover and then bend it over around the signatures. But I kind of wanted mine to have a little bit of shape, so that's what we're going to do now. So let me get a ruler and a pencil. And remember, our front cover is 6 inches wide, and then we have a 1.5 inch spine, and then a 6 inch back cover. So I'm just going to put a real light pencil mark on here, and it's not going to show because I'm going to have a crease there, and it's super, super light. I know you can't see it. Super, super light pencil mark. Okay. In fact, I got to put my pencil on there so I don't lose the mark. And then, where's my metal? Here's my metal. Can't pick it up. All right, there's my mark. Come on this side of it. And down there. Okay, so I'm going to hold my ruler. I'm using a metal ruler. And I'm just going to fold my cover over that to make a crease or make a fold. And then if I take my iron, which should still be hot, and I'm just going to iron a crease onto that. And it's not going to be super structured. It's not. There we go. See, it gives it and if I let it cool that way, it will hold that shape better. Okay, and then now I need to open my cover and do the same thing on the back. Six inches. There we go. Real light pencil mark. 6 inches. Right there and right there. Fold it over. And then now my cover has a little bit of structure to it. Okay. Yeah, so that's that. So that's all I'm going to do in this video. Before I go, let me show you a little trick. So if you want to go ahead and fray your fabric out so that you get like kind of a fringe type of look. I know sometimes it's hard to sit there and try to grab those little strings. What I like to use is like a like a pokey tool. This thing has a name. A hole poker. Anyway, if you just kind of rub that along the edge of your fabric, it loosens up those threads so that they're easier to pull. So it makes it a lot faster to do that. Here, let me zoom in and you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. I'll come over to this side where I haven't done much. So nothing seems very loose there, but if I rub this tool, it starts loosening up all those threads, and then I can pull them off, and it kind of gives it a fringe look. So anyway, so that's that. You can use the tip of a razor knife and just gently kind of loosen up those threads if you want that fringed look. Remember, if you use pinking shears to cut your fabric with, it will not have that frayed look. So that might be something you want to do. In fact, that's what I did on my other cover, is I did pinking shears on it. So this one I still have to sew around the edges on it. But anyway, that's all I'm going to do in this video. And yeah, and then I've got another idea for another cover, so that will be in another video. Here, let me back us up. So, oops, that's the back, isn't it? So anyway, I will see you guys soon. Take care. Happy crafting. Bye.